Another thing I strongly support is the gypsum rule. Right now, your poultry producers in the state of Mississippi, we are the largest poultry producing state in the nation. Do you know right now that those folks that buy the chickens from the producers can require them to upgrade their facilities? However, if they go in debt for a few $100,000, their contract may be canceled less than 2 months later. The gypsum rule provides that they have a chance to earn back at least 80% of their investment and must keep the contract in place until that happens. It's not a requirement on the company. The company can terminate that person before they go to it. But bringing it back to extremely at the state level, you know, there was a study done in 2009 that showed how we could make improvements to the fairgrounds. And I do not believe there was a single proposal that came forward in the 2010 legislature that attempted to help. And I definitely know that the commissioner did not come forward and say, these are some changes that I want to make. But those are some changes that Gill wants to make. And I'm also willing to stand up to the EPA. You know, when the federal government oversteps its bounds, when it tells us that dust is a dangerous pollutant, and now it's beginning to tell us that hay, dead grass, is a dangerous pollutant. I mean, does that mean that every person that mows their lawn is now going to be responsible for proper removal of that grass? But again, I stress my experience, 42 years in the livestock industry, not just raising cattle, but actually owning a business that operates in every single livestock market in Mississippi every day. Also a few in Tennessee, a few in Alabama, and a few in Louisiana. Our customers stretch from Nebraska down to Texas, now to Colorado. So I try and help Mississippi promote its own economic interest.
And right now, of course, there's so many issues going on with the cost of corn, the cost of fuel, and the input cost that is so dramatically increased in the last couple of years. And as we've mentioned, poultry is so important, where 2/3 of the feed that we use in the poultry industry is made out of corn, 1/3 out of soybean. So with the price of that, you can imagine how expensive that has gotten. And every dollar per bushel, the increase in the price of corn, that takes 10 cents a pound off our cattle that we raise. We are in the stockyard business down in Brookhaven, been there a long time. And when you look at it like that, when corn went from $5 per bushel to $6, that took $100 off a 500-pound calf. So we directly feel what is going on in agriculture right now and what the concerns are. But there's many issues that come up before that, and so many people don't realize what the Department of Agriculture does. It's been amazing to me how many issues that people say, well, you're going to be over this. I say, no, that's federal, that's EPA, or that's whatever. The Department of Agriculture has nothing to do with that. We are a regulatory agency. I've handled their budget for 12 years. I'm very familiar with the department and where the money goes, and I can assure you it has been efficiently spent since I've been chairman of agriculture, because I've seen the budget. I've been there when they came in with the proposals. But so many people don't realize when you're a regulatory agency, we inspect gas pumps. 78,000 gas pumps were inspected last year by the Department of Agriculture for the accuracy, the consumer protection, that when you pay for a gallon of gas, you get a gallon of gas. And I've always said I can't control the price of that, but we can control and make sure that you get that gallon. We have 2 labs. We have a seed lab at Mississippi State on campus. We have a metrology lab at Alcorn. And what that is, we calibrate all the scales in Mississippi that are in the grocery stores, in the stockyards, in the wood yards. When somebody goes and buys a load of wood and it comes across there, those scales that's weighed on, which determines your market, what you're being paid, is calibrated by the Department of Agriculture. When you buy grapes in the grocery store and you put it on the scale in the grocery store, wherever, that's calibrated by the department. And many people don't realize that. And we also have an Ag Theft Bureau. You know, there continues to be cattle rustlers in this state. And I know at our stockyard not long ago, we had some stolen cattle that came through. And this fella came in and he said, you know, I know whose cows those are, and it's not who's selling the cattle. We called the Cattle Theft Bureau, and they made an arrest very shortly that night when the guy came to pick up his check. They investigate if there's stolen equipment, if there's stolen trailers, and the national rate of recovering these items in the ag industry is 17%. In Mississippi, it's 42% recovery rate. So if you have any ag equipment stolen in Mississippi, we have a good team that's on there. We have about 105 acres down at the fairgrounds. We have 27 permanent structures down there. That falls under the Department of Agriculture. We have 5 revenue-producing buildings. The Ag Museum out on Lakeland Drive falls under the Department of Agriculture, and the facility out there. And of course, the Coliseum is a special funds agent. Our budget this past year was about $8.8 million. That was a decrease. It was a little over $9 million for 2011. When I say this year, this is 2012's budget that we just finished up the legislative session on. I feel like one thing that I bring to the table is the contacts that I've made in the legislature. The folks that are there are, you know, I know how the system works. I know how you get things passed. I know about the legislative budget operation and those things that continue to go on, that you cannot fund any of these programs if you don't get the money from the legislature to do it. You know, 15 years ago, one farmer fed 47 people. Today, and that's just right before I got in the legislature, today, one farmer feeds about 130 people. That's higher yields, that's productivity, that's taking care of business, and the concern is our growing population. You know, we look at the numbers of the people that we have to feed down the road, and we do have to be productive. We do have to use all the technology that we can use to produce higher yields for our crops. And the beef cattle, you know, this is a huge business in the country. We do that every day. We have the stockyard there. And this morning, you know, we are out there getting ready right now to plant ryegrass. So this is my life. This is what I do. I had the opportunity to help with the catfish country of origin labeling. When you walk into a restaurant and you see the placard that says, "We proudly serve U.S. farm-raised catfish," that was legislation that I carried the water for in the state Senate. And I had the opportunity to fly up to Austin. I met with Governor Rick Perry, because if we could get that bill introduced in Texas, that would just mean more catfish is sold from Mississippi, because Texas is the largest consumer of catfish, but they buy most of it from Mississippi. And they buy a lot of their feed from Mississippi for their catfish ponds, and we also sell that. So there's been many things. I got to go to Fox News and do their Sunday morning political program, the longest 20 minutes of my life, but it is on my website. And you know, these things just help you prepare down the road, because it's tough to run for a statewide office. It really is. It's tough to put your name on the ballot, and it's very hard to make that decision and then actually carry through. It's physically draining, it's mentally draining, and it's very expensive. It costs a lot of money to do that. So you just have to look at the candidates and how well they can put together a campaign and how well they can run it. But look at the candidate to see, you know, who can take care of business, who can promote this industry, who can get us down the road, and who can build on this industry and capitalize the good things that we already have.